Public Works Committee at 6:16. I'd like to make a motion to consider approval of the minutes of Public Works Committee held on December 10th, 2019.
Second.
Thank you. All's in favor?
Aye.
Number 3, discuss irrigation maintenance contract. John?
Yes, sir, thank you. This is our ongoing annual maintenance contract that we put out to bid for all of the irrigation systems, the sprinkler irrigation systems that we have throughout the town. As you see in the memo, there's roughly just over 6 areas, and this went out to bid on December 12th. We had 3 sealed bids that were received, and the lowest bid that was seen for the overall cost was H&Y out of Lake Forest. But as I have had attached to this front memo, this company was one of the contractors that did the work on LaGrange Road during the initial installation. We've had ongoing issues with them, willing to come back and maintain or take care of the punch list items. And I've got 2 different architecture firms that have recommended against utilizing this company for our maintenance program. It is roughly a $2,000 difference between the next lowest bidder. So we are making a recommendation to award the bid to Aquamist out of Dalton for the total cost of $39,269.10.
Cool. Thank you, John. Any questions, guys?
No.
Nope.
Make a motion to move it to the board.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Number 4, receive comments from the public. Anyone care to address the Public Works Committee? Officer King? No? Public Works?
Forrest?
Good.
All right.
Make a motion to close the Public Works Committee.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. It's all yours, Bill. You gotta take a gap. I think you gotta pause.
Right.
Laura, how long of a pause do you want?
This one you don't need to pause, between the cow and they all work out.
Okay. I'd like to open the meeting of the Administration and Legal Committee. The clock in the, says 6:19. I'd like to consider the approval of minutes of the Administration and Legal Committee meeting held on December 10th, 2019. I get a motion?
So moved.
All those in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Okay. Item number 3, discuss civil service rules and regulations.
Would you like me to handle it? So before you are some comprehensive changes to the civil service rules and regulations. The rules have not been changed since 1997. So in the approximately 23 or so years, technology has changed and there have been some changes in hiring practice. Sorry, I thought you guys could hear. So the changes in the rules are designed to address things that have happened in the past 23 years. Additionally, with the onboarding of several new commissioners recently, the rules and regulations really weren't designed as a handbook for new commissioners, so we edited them to provide more of a substantial guideline for commissioners as they're coming on. And one of the main areas of hiring before the Civil Service Commission is police hiring. So through conversations with the commissioner and the chief of police, a request was made to provide a point system for lateral hires, those police officers who meet our age requirement, but who have already been through the academy, with the concept that they could become active members of the police force more quickly than people being hired and having to go through academy. The Civil Service rules and regulations are designed to be a living, breathing document. So typically, the Civil Service Commission can actually update and change their own rules. However, with the large number of changes that we were proposing and with the change related to the preference points for lateral hires and police hiring, we were looking to seek Board of Trustee approval so that it is fully countenanced under the Tinley Park Home Rule Authority.
Thank you.
Deanna, is this a establishment of a separate list, certified officer list, like Chief has mentioned in the past? Or is it
No, to work with the system that has already been in place in Tenley Park, what we propose to do with these changes is add 5 points to any police officer who can demonstrate having attended the academy. Obviously, this is a comprehensive change, so it may be something that the committee needs a little bit more time to review, but there's any number of schemes that could be put forward. But that was the amount of points the chief and the commissioners felt were appropriate, given what we're looking to do with the hiring.
Good, okay.
Any
Thank you.
additional questions?
Can you explain again the positions at 13 points someone's allowed to receive, or 12 points?
Are you talking about merit and efficiency points?
Yes.
Sure. So the Civil Service Commission hires both police and non-police hires. And for non-police hires, there is a scale for merit and efficiency up to 12 points, I believe. For police hires, the scale is rated out of 100, I believe. So it's either on a 100-point scale or a 10-point scale, something that can obviously calculate out to 100. So they're slightly different rubrics, one for police and one for non-police hires, and none of that is proposed to change.
And as far as the police said, they could receive up to 10 points.
Correct.
5 for military, 5 for police.
So merit and efficiency points only come into play in promotions. There's no merit and efficiency that would come into play in original hiring for a patrol officer. But in terms of an original hire for a patrol officer, the new proposal would allow the statutorily granted military points that are part of the Illinois Municipal Code, as well as now allowing 5 additional points for lateral hires. Yeah.
Okay, Dave? You wanna say something?
Just say, because we don't have the ability to have the 2 lists where police and fire commissions do, the 5 extra points would move those that are already police up the list, and we can get them on, it would allow us to get officers on the street quicker. That's the reason for the 5 points.
Could be 10 points, so.
Well, the 10 points if they're military.
Yeah.
If those that are non-military would still get 5 points, and it would move them up the list.
And then, what are we thinking on, to get officers with experience? Who do we think is, what's the plan? Who do we think's gonna come here? Because, like I was talking with Deanna and Denise, it almost seems, so, we have a scale. I think you said it goes A through F, correct?
You're
So-
talking about the contract
Yeah,
for,
for the pay.
for pay, sure.
So the chief has a list of people that are experienced, and like you said, you can get them on the street quicker. I mean, who do we think is going to leave their other position and start at the bottom? So basically, where I'm saying is where I struggle with this, it's a great idea with what you want to do, but take a guy who works, whatever, Oak Lawn, Oak Forest, Orland Park, County. Who would leave their position to come here and start at whatever it is, 65,000? There almost should be, we should almost have some type of lateral higher scale. I mean, because I think if you're looking to get people on the street and you're looking to get the best people, I mean,
Well, I know that the county, if you went from corrections and you went to the police department, say you were a 15-year correction officer, they didn't start you out as a step 1 officer. However, my numbers, this is just a guess, but probably 4 of the last 7 that we've hired were officers elsewhere. We got an officer from Orland Park, we got an officer from Burbank, we got an officer from Payless Park. The one that's just got approved yesterday at Civil Service is from University of Chicago. We have a list of 29, and out of the 29, I think there's 12 that are, is that right? 12 that are already police officers on that list. So there are many people that want to come to Tinley Park and be the police.
but are they newly hired police officers?
Yes.
Or are they officers with 10 years of experience?
That I don't know. Usually if you get somebody with 10 years of experience, either they're not going to leave where they're at, or sometimes we don't want somebody with bad habits anyhow. So if they want to come and start at step one, welcome. But to give them additional money, I don't know. That's a decision that would be up to the board.
No, it's a concern of mine that if you're gonna try and get someone that's already experienced, you're not paying for all the training. Because like at management level, we hire people and we'll have a scale, and then we wanna hire them and pay them out of the range. But with the police officers, I would think that would have a high priority.
I do think the ones that we just hired recently, for example, like a Payless Park, they don't have the ability to pay. It would be more difficult to get somebody from an Oak Lawn or actually an Orland Park, which we did get. Most of those departments, they don't see a lot of people leaving because it's they make pretty much the same as Tinley Park. Oak Lawn as well, but there are a lot of departments that don't have the funding or the ability to pay, and they'd be more than happy to come over here at step one.
Yeah, I think if I remember from before, I think it takes 8 or 10 years for Orland to make what Tinley makes,
Yeah, that I don't know.
to top out.
Well, I think with the age requirements too, I don't think we're gonna see that too often, as they have to be on our list first.
The age, and plus the fact that a lot of them, if they're at another town and they've got 5-10 years of a pension system, it's.
They're not.
Right, they're not gonna jump.
They're not even gonna be eligible
Big
to apply
distance.
sometimes,
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
But one question I have on here, it says military preference, it doesn't give a certain amount of points on here. It doesn't, it just says that, it says they shall be given preference, but it doesn't specify a certain amount of points.
In the Illinois Municipal Code for Civil Service, that's actually spelled out. So
Okay.
because it wasn't a change, in our memo, we didn't highlight that as a change, because it's under the same practice that we've always
Okay.
done, which is specified in the municipal code.
Okay, okay.
And then, in here, the summary of changes in 1A, where it says, propose to alter Civil Service Commission rules with a new process to include method to interview sub-portion of the candidates for any position, and essentially create a split list of those who have been interviewed, may be hired before having to interview entire list.
Sure.
So what happens now?
So under the old civil service rules and regulations, there's no requirement for an oral interview. It's a permissible action by the commissioners or the hiring authority. And technically speaking, Dave is the hiring authority. The village manager is the hiring authority. So one of the pieces of feedback we got both from Chief Walsh and former Chief Neubauer was that not interviewing police candidates was a major mistake. And so if the commission doesn't authorize the interview process, the chief of police has no method to interview the candidates, and he or she receives a candidate after they've begun the training process. So that's a poor practice from the chief's perspective. So the rules were changed to require an interview component in police hiring, and leave it optional for all other civil service commission positions, so non-police commission, or non-police positions. The split list portion is that there have been times when you would receive hundreds of candidates for a entry-level patrol officer position. That's not something we're seeing in the current sort of hiring times. But the idea was to specifically permit the commission, if they had 100 patrol officer candidates take the test, interview the first top 20 applicants, or whatever number the commission designates based on the number of applicants, so that we can easily move through the list, quickly move through the list, and get candidates through the background checks and all the other processes, so that we can get officers on the street as quickly as possible.
And to add to that, the last test, there was 80 applicants, 41 passed. We interviewed all 41. It took 4 days of 3 people from the police department and a representative from HR. So it's very time consuming. If we had to interview all 100 of them, that could take a month every day.
So it's just really a way to streamline the process and to make it transparent for any applicant, so they see that in the rules and they're aware that if I'm on the bubble, I may not be the first group interviewed. And it's simply to provide that information.
Under the 3A, the second one says, certain questions have arisen over ability of commission to request additional testing of applicants,
Sure.
particularly those where medical conditions may affect ability to perform job, and language was added to empower the commissioners to act as needed.
Sure.
So now, my question is, are we empowering the commissioners to do this, or is this gonna be basically the advice and consent of Chief Walsh?
I believe Chief Walsh participates regularly in those commission meetings, so I do not believe he would be in any way outside of the loop. But as an example, I don't think this violates any form of confidentiality. We've had issues surrounding whether or not a candidate who is partially colorblind meets the requirements. Well, we don't technically have a way in the rules to send for advanced colorblind testing. And if we assume that the person who is colorblind is unable to perform the job duties, then we run the risk of running afoul of the ADA and all kinds of discrimination protection. So it was really, the idea is that we're seeing several instances where the candidates are potentially going to be passing or they're not, but we literally don't know, and we need to have a way to screen them ahead of time. So it really is the commissioners who would be empowered, because they're the ones that ultimately have to make the decision of whether or not they meet the qualifications. But I don't believe Chief Walsh would be left out of the conversation.
I know, but I just, it makes me feel uncomfortable because the way it's worded, we're empowering them, is the exact words that we're using.
Sure.
It doesn't mean that we empower them to come to Chief Walsh and say, this is what we want to do, you know, and he's signing off on it.
Right, but the other part of that is, we have the liaison from HR who works closely with the Civil Service Commission to make sure that their conduct is complying with all of the employment onboarding requirements. So I don't necessarily actually see that Chief Walsh would be the one who should be empowered with that ability to send for additional testing, because this is all coming through the HR process, the expense that we would have to pay for it. And, if he gets a patrol officer in his employ and he has concerns once they're in his staff, he has the ability to send for a fitness and duty exam. So it's not that he has no resolution once he would receive somebody. There's a multi-step process. Any other questions?
Satisfied? I think you covered it all.
I think this is a big task to tackle. Is there any harm in tabling this to another meeting?
No, there's no harm in tabling it. I think we're in a decent spot with hiring at this point where we don't have any immediate testing coming up. I believe we recently did a patrol officer test. We recently did a sergeant's promotional exam. So we're actually in a nice spot. Obviously, we would like to make the changes as quickly as possible so that when a list is either exhausted or is abolished, we're in a position to hire under the new rules. But I do believe we have some time.
Okay, and with the two lists, how is he going to decipher hiring between which lists again?
There's only one list for patrol officer hiring. What would happen with the preference?
For the preference, yeah.
Yeah, so the preference points are added in. When somebody takes an exam, they take a written exam, every patrol officer takes a written exam. They're ranked in their order of performance on that initial exam. Then after that, that's where they begin the oral interview process. And then after all of the exam components are finished and a score is computed, then all applicants who would claim either military credit or lateral hiring preference points would make their request for credit. So it's coming in at the very end, and they're all on one list. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yep.
Yeah, there's the one list right now, but is there the interview portion, are we scoring the interviews too or no?
Yeah, interviews are
Pass-fail, okay.
pass-fail, I believe, and Chief Walsh, you can correct me if I'm wrong. There is also the opportunity to have a written component within that oral exam. It's not the
formal written test that you take initially, but he is permitted to have some sort of additional writing component should he choose to.
Okay. Very good.
Anything else? Okay, you received any comments from the public? Same ones? Brad? Bart? Greg? Nobody?
Does she have to have action on it?
Do you need, do you want to table it, or is,
I do.
okay.
I'm saying, you let the public comment.
Tabling it to
If you want to table it to another,
Yeah.
committee or committee of the whole?
What do you think? Want to let the whole, want to put on a council, the whole board can
I think
participate?
we would just say the
I don't think
statute,
it-
so table
Okay,
to
that's
account.
great.
I don't think it needs actual formal, I don't think it needs any formal
No, but
move,
just-
because it's just for discussion.
As
But
long
I
as-
think the
as long
point
as
was
we know,
taken.
We'll put it on a future account.
Sounds good.
the other direction for it, okay. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting, Administration and Legal Committee.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And so we're adjourned.